Alright, I have been almost drawing for 1 year now, going from this atrocious creature to this gorgeous woman. And now you might be thinking the journey I had to undergo to get this far was something like a straight line with a couple of hills. Well, no. It was more like this. So I decided to celebrate my first year of suffering by making this video. For you guys, to give you a hand on your journey, because whether you like it or not, it will probably look like this too. I'm kinda exaggerating, it really differs from person to person and it ultimately comes down to what goal you have in mind. Nevertheless, let's just start talking about a few things that I have learned in this past year. And to make it all a bit more exciting, I'm gonna draw this Berserk fan art. What the fuck is calling me now? FaceTime? Hey yo, what's up? It's me, or you from the future. I got your references. For your Berserk drawing, I didn't want you to spend hours looking for some, so I helped you out a little bit. There you go. Okay, thanks. Well anyways, this brings me to my first point. Use references. Now, I know this is generic advice, and you probably heard it 1,000 times, but this is very important, and it comes with a few minor details. When I talk about references, I'm not talking about just those from Pinterest, okay? Sometimes it can be very difficult to find references and extremely time consuming. That's why taking a photo of yourself and the pose that you want your character to be in can be a perfect foundation for proportions and anatomy. Now I'm directly speaking to those people that want to be creative, because I have seen so many people copy a reference from Pinterest 101 that everybody on this world has seen at least once. And that's totally fine. But it's not creative. This, for example, is a reference I used for my drawing. This is what I ended up with. You can use references for each segment of the drawing and come up with something totally new. You might have a reference for a good pose, but the lighting is complete garbage, so for the light, just use another reference. Another thing that is very important when it comes to reference is to understand what you're drawing. The best example would be the hand. I love drawing hands. To make this not a tutorial for hands, but much rather a quick guide to understanding reference, I will keep this short. So, take a reference of your hand, a pose that isn't too difficult, and just start by creating a rough draft. Now, I'm the kind of person, I don't do boxes and all that stuff, I hate that shit. I create a messy sketch and then indicate where the fingers are by just drawing simple lines. Now, what information can you gather from this reference? Fingers are not static straight sticks. They have a little bit of dynamic to them. The length and size of the fingers play a big role. Also be very accurate where you place them. They don't just sharply connect. They have a little bit of skin in between them. The best way to understand hands for me is to look at the curves and see how exactly they go. The best example here would be the nails. The perspective plays a huge role because from above, they might look like this, but from the angle of my reference, the curve is a slight hill. And the closer you analyze everything, the easier you will have it in the future since you already understand how hands work. This hand took a good 6 to 8 minutes, and if you want to check for any mistakes now, the thing that helps me a lot is just taking your eyes off the canvas for a second, take a very short break and then look back. And I, for example, noticed that the thumb is a little bit too short, and so slowly but steady you can build up your hand until it looks perfect. Also, if you want to make 100% sure or correct your study, you can take your drawing and put it over the reference. See if there are any major mistakes, and only major mistakes, because it doesn't have to look exactly 101 like your reference. Now, once again, this wasn't a tutorial, for that just go to the professionals. They know it better. Now my next point is for everyone who is just starting out. The beginning can be very frustrating. You don't know what to do or how to do it in the first place. So keep in mind, however difficult it might get, getting lost on your path is part of the path. I started drawing way back. I probably told this story 100 times on this channel, so I'll keep it short. I used to draw anime hands. That's it. I had a clear line what I wanted to do every single day, and it became an absolute automatic process. And you want to know what it did? It absolutely killed my artistic progress. Flatlined. Now eventually finding a style and drawing in a similar way is not a bad thing. In fact, it will probably serve your mental health well, because for once you don't feel like you have no f***ing idea what you're doing all the time. But I encourage everyone to try out things. Experiment. Start easy with just portraits, get comfortable, understand what you're doing, and don't focus too much on style in the beginning. Every one of us, or most of us, seek to be unique, and when our work doesn't look like the way we want it to, it can be very discouraging. That's why keep in mind it's okay to feel lost. In fact, it probably feels a lot more exciting than knowing everything there already is. Imagine you have to solve a math equation. 2 plus 2 is 4, and you have to do that every single time. You'll stop enjoying it, considering you enjoy doing maths in the first place. But so what you can do is change up your approach. Go away from 2 plus 2 and maybe to 5 minus 1. The overall outcome is the same, but the journey is different. You draw humans, for example. Instead of always drawing them in black and white, try color, then a different color palette, different clothes, poses, expressions. Learn and enjoy it. You will get better without even realizing it. Last year, the anatomy, the bodies I have been drawing, and now it just comes so easy to me. Just looking at the JoJo video I made like a couple of weeks ago, the poses, they were so easy to replicate, and it just feels so good. Now, I just mentioned color, and I think not only for me, but for a lot of people, especially for those that already got accustomed to working in black and white / values, are really scared of color. Because when you have values, light and dark, that's the only parameter you work with. There isn't much you can mess up except for adding a bit too much shadow or light. As soon as you take the curtains off though and are being greeted by this glowing fucking rainbow, you get overwhelmed. At least it was like that for me. But I really wanted to learn it. Black and white became stagnant, and the only way to break free from this cage was to learn color. Now, I'm still a baby when it comes to color, but I'd say I made a little bit of progress considering the first time I tried it, I was shading with black. Now back to the topic, what helped me get into it was to take inspiration from various sources. Learn what colors work together, as for example, complementary colors, colors that are on the opposite side of each other on the color wheel. Learn what colors stick out, like red for example, and how to implement them in your work. Lastly, the most important thing that I learned when it comes to color was to go back to the roots. Make sure your values are correct. If they're not, even if you're a master at color, it will look a little bit off. Now this is all basic knowledge. Color is such a broad territory, but having a good foundation, understanding how color works and what works together, it can make everything that comes on top later a lot easier. Also, it all again comes down to what goal you have in mind. Your style could go very far from realism towards a more abstract direction, and it will still look good. Speaking of goals, a goal you shouldn't have is, I want 20,000 likes on this artwork. If I don't get 20,000 likes on this artwork, I will be big sad. Don't fall for the social media trap. If you get a bunch of likes, that doesn't mean your art is any more significant than someone's with a lot less likes. Now, I have been on both sides. I come from this from a totally neutral perspective. This drawing right here, 20,000 likes. This one, 100. Or this drawing, 6,000 likes. This one, 89. So the most important advice that I can give you if you want to share your art on social media and work up your ladder is to be careful. It's very tempting to fall into trends, and once you fall into it, it is very difficult to get out of them. Speaking of experience. Nevertheless, a small tip if you want to make it on social media, like me, again, while also improving and drawing what you want, you should try and grow with other things than just your art. On YouTube, for example, it could be personality, a funny guy that draws very well. Sam does arts. You could draw fan art, sometimes, not always. Like me, for example, right now making this Berserk fan art. Most importantly, stay creative and don't let a number destroy your mental health, like it did with mine. Now coming to my last point and the most important point in this video, and that is to see the world in a different way. Observe what is going on around you, especially when it comes to color. The best way to learn it is to study it from real life. See how the shade changes when I put my hand closer to a different colored object. It's being reflected onto my skin. Another thing that I like to do is, maybe while you're washing your hands or something, is to just look into the mirror. See how the light hits your face and from where the light source comes from, and get a basic understanding of how your face is built. If you have a light source from above, your lower lip will be highlighted while your upper lip won't. You could observe people while going for a walk or grocery shopping. Just make sure not to stare at them or checking them out like a psychopath. See how faces change when you smile, when you cry, or when you're angry. That's pretty much it. That's all the main parts that I gathered from the last year. I hope this video wasn't too short. I just don't like it when people make a 30-minute video out of something you could make in 10 and like talk and talk and talk and talk around the topic while not getting to the point. I actually planned a different video for today, but some things happened, some things failed. You will find out in the next video, so stay tuned. Nevertheless, I hope you enjoyed this small insight, and with that being said, truly, thanks for watching guys, and I'll see you in the next one.